Welcome to wfTutorials. Today we are going to build a quiz based on Avatar, the last airbender. Let's get started. Basically what you're going to do is create a set of questions and then we can have a quiz based on the questions we created. So let's add a question. So questions are going to be based on the Avatar, the last airbender. What was, or why was I afraid to use fire? So we add so that's the question and we add an answer. 1, because it was too hot. This is not the correct answer. I mean, because he blew it out. I knew, because he burnt Katara, I think that's how you spell it, because he was trapped in ice for too long. Alright, so this is the correct answer, so we answer that as yes, and then we save this question. So you see our question comes up below here. Why was Aang afraid to use fire? And the correct answer is because he burnt Katara. Because he burned Katara. Am I wrong about that? I think I'm correct. So we press take the quiz. So we start the quiz. And you say how many books does the Avatar last airbender have? And we say 3 books. And we continue. What are the 4 original types of airbending? Swamp bending. Well, that's wrong. But let's try a wrong answer. The Avatar serves as a bridge between Brooklyn and Manhattan. How long is Aang? How old? This is supposed to be how old. How old? It says how old. Anyway, is at the start of the show. And he is 112 years. Who's the female waterbender we meet at the start of the show? These questions are just off. Katara. Why was Aang afraid to use fire? Because he blew it out with his wind magic. Alright, and then we just click view results. So we can see the results. How many books does the last airbender have? 3 books. Awesome. You answered the correct question. What are the 4 original types of airbending? And the correct answer is water bending, earth bending, fire bending, and air bending. But we chose swamp bending, metal bending, lava bending, and lightning bending. And lightning is spelled incorrectly. The Avatar is a bridge between the physical world and the spiritual world is the correct answer, not Brooklyn and Manhattan. How old is Aang at the start of the show? 112 years. Who is the female? Right, you get the point. So this is what we're going to create, okay? Fantastic. We created our project, so we are now going to create our template, which is the lazy way of creating some random HTML. And the first file we're going to create is questions, because the first thing we're going to do is get all our questions. So we do that, we say the last airbender, something like that. Avatar, the last airbender quiz questions, right? And each element, enter your questions. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to have a form. So we have a form and we have an input. So the input is the question. And actually, let's try this. We might actually get our basic error because bad gateway. We didn't set up the PHP interpreter. So we're just going to do that now. So we can get our server going, right? Enter your questions. Avatar the last airbender quiz is the title. So let's continue. So we want to put on input of type text. Type text, right? And yeah. And then we want a submit button that says button save question. The type of this is submit, And finally, what we're gonna do, right? We're gonna start with the answers already. So you can add any amount of answers as you like. So in order to do that, we have to get a little creative. Add new answer. Each ref is going to be JavaScript void, and we're gonna be using some jQuery here. So we're gonna have to call in jQuery. Call in jQuery. Boom. Right, so this is our jQuery here. And we are halfway there. Let's see how it looks first. Right, we want some space in between this, so we put some space there. Put a div for the answer, so we're going to add answers to this div, so all our answers are going to be there. See how it looks now. It looks good. And what is our next step? So our next step is actually using JavaScript. Well, let's put the method as post. Right, so let's just confirm we could post, save, right? So we could post, we know that working. So our next step is going to be working on the answers. So let's add our script, and let's add our jQuery or JavaScript. So document ready function, right? And we want to get this ID. So when we click on this, we want to take an action. So we say add answer, that's the ID, on click function, return false to stop the propagation. Look at me saying fancy words. That's not my style. And answer layout. So what we're going to do is something dynamic. So we're going to dynamically add HTML content to the layout. And how are we going to do this? So we have the div, right? We're going to dynamically add content to this. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to say answers. Well, yeah, answers, and then we're going to append. And we're going to append the answer layout. Right? So now we need to put something within this layout. So we could start with a div, and then we could say answer, and then we could put an input. Close it just as before, give it a name, and let's try and see how that looks. So let's see if we work in. So when you click add new, you should see a lot of answers showing up, right? So that is great. We literally halfway there. So I want answers to be separate, and maybe I bold it a bit, so there's kind of like a difference. And we reload that. Great. So when you click add new, obviously, you could style this better if you like. All right, so let's not stop. So the name is answers and brackets, because basically we're saying there's going to be multiple of those. At the top of the question, the name is, what do you think the name is? The name is question. Of course the name is question, because it's a question, right? So we kind of halfway there. The only other thing we need now is our select. So the select is what differentiates whether it's an answer or not, right? So let's work on the select. So let's do that. All right, now the ID automatically adds the plus and minus stuff. Pretty cool, right? So I don't have to worry about that. But basically, you just be adding these two strings together when you cross the line, when you're taking on a new line. Anyway, the name of this is going to be correct because it's unoriginal. So So this is going to identify whether or not the answers are correct or not. And the options are going to be yes or no. And it's correct or it's not correct. Up. And the value is going to be no, because most times it's not going to be correct. And then maybe if we get lucky, okay, at least one time it should be correct. It should definitely be one time correct. So this is going to be yes, and the value is going to be yes. So I'm going to break this up again at the beginning of the option and at the end of the div. Right? So I have 3 separate lines there. So let's see how this works. So we add new, and is it the answer? No, 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 and then you could say yes. So we are halfway there with the questions. The next thing we want to do is actually create a database. As always, my databases are already created. So I'm just going to show you them. So for the question database, questions, let's send this to SQL, create. And we can see we have very basic, so basically just an ID and a question, and then every question has an answer. So send to create. All right, let's do this properly. So let's send to questions. So if you wanted to copy this down, I'm gonna have it here for you, and send to SQL, create answers, right? So you have your questions and you have your answers. So answers include the question ID, answer, whatever the answer is, and whether it's correct or not. And that's an int. Right? You don't need to add the auto increment, of course. You could remove this when you're creating your tables. Great. So once you create your tables, you're halfway there, and we're going back into the code. So we are right now submitting our form, and that's great. So let's actually work on the logic for that. So because I know how this is going to go, I'm going to do something special. We're going to create a functions file. Isn't that amazing? And what we're going to do with this functions file is, at the top, we're going to say include functions.php. And why are we doing this? Because we are going to need it a few times, at least more than once. So in our functions file, we're going to do one thing first: get connection. You know, this is the basic drill. You shouldn't have to explain this again. All right. And now we need to save a question. Because once we get a question, we have to do what? Save a question. So function save question. You have to pass in the question that we get. And now we're going to save it. So we have connection, get connection. We're calling that function. Say SQL. And we have some insert into questions. Question values. Great. And now we query con prepare. We have the SQL, and then we can pass in, we execute it and pass in the data, which is just question. Now we're going to do something special here again. We're going to say con last insert ID, and this is going to give us the last inserted ID. So since we just inserted questions, we should get back the ID, and that is fantastic. So the next thing we're going to do now is we're going to save an answer. Yeah. Yep. We are going to save an answer. So let's do that. Let's do it one by one. So we're going to deal with post them now. So we're gonna save the question, and then we're gonna save the answers. We clear the database after. So we're going back to questions, and you know how we do this. We say if server request method equal post, and I sent. I mean, I think this is not necessary at this point. We could probably just do the I set post. But habits, you know what that means? That means we need to have a name. We need to have a name called save question. Because it has too many Z's, right? So let's get our question first. We know how to do this. Question. So if we have question, we get question. Otherwise, we say it's null. If question, we can do some stuff. Actually, let's just save it. Save question. So let's see if this is working. And I guess we could echo question saved. ID is ID, right? So let's try that and see what we get. Hello world. Save question. Question save ID is 7. That means I didn't reset the database. So let's look at it. Hello world, right? I'm going to have to reset the database. For video purposes, I'm going to turn on this autocompleter off, right? So all my random suggestions don't show. Hello, great. Alright, so now we can save a question. What we want to do now is get answers. So we want to get all the answers that we are saving and then save those answers. But that means we have to save the answers. So that means we need a function called save answer. Function save answer. And what do you need? You need the question that you're going to save. So you need the question that you're going to save. You need to know what the answer is. It's actually the question ID. Then you want the answer. And then you want to know whether it's correct or not. Alright, and then we get the connection. Get connection. And we can say, for now, we're just going to save the answer. So we're going to say SQL insert into answers, and we're going to have to say question ID answer correct, because that's how I made the database. And then we have values 1, 2, 3. And then we know our basics, so we say query is equal to con prepare SQL, and then we say query is equal to execute, not equal to, but we just executed, and we pass in the values. And what are the values we passing in? Question ID, answer, and it's correct. Yeah, right. So that's saving an answer. So now that we can save an answer, let's wipe our database. Truncate and truncate answers. Questions, answers, cancel. Nice. So now we need to get our answers. characters, right? So we get in our answers. I remember answers is an array, so we need to treat it accordingly. If it's empty, it's empty. If it's empty, it's an array. So we say if question, and we get the ID, and then we say, we can echo that later. We say for each answer as answer. What do we want to do that? Yes. For all the answers as an answer, and then we say save answer. An answer requires an ID, and then requires an answer, which is probably just answer. And then we want to know if it's correct or not. We're just going to say all of them are not correct. And that should do it. So we just pass in a value. And let's see if that works. So we load our page. We say hello world. Then we want to ask two questions. Is the world really hello? And what size is the world? We save this. And we have an error, illegal offset answer. So we need to see, oh, I'm doing that wrong. So we actually don't need to go into it. We should just do that. So let's try that again. So this is a hello world question. And then we add two answers. Answer 1. Answer 2. And then we save it, right? So let's check our database for answers. And we're not seeing any there, but the questions pulled. So we need to find out what's going on, right? Save answer, checking functions, insert into answers, question ID, answers, answer, correct. So let's see if that little change fixes anything. This, how old is Ang? It's ANG. We could see 12 years. Then we could see 13 years. Let me save it. Let me check in our, there we go. You see, and correct is 0. So if we put correct as 1, it would be 1. Right now we are hard coding correct, as you can see from the, let me save it, right? So that is good for now. Alright, so we need to get one more thing. We also sign in all the is correct stuff. So we want to check for that. I can't remember what I call it. So this is what telling you whether or not it's correct or not. So I just have it as correct. It's also being passed as an array. So correct. Correct. So this should match the answers. And what we're going to do here, when we do not for loop, we're going to do a count. And we're going to increment the count every time we do the for loop. Right? And now we're going to say, is it correct or not? Is correct. Or what is, let's just make it C or C. Is correct. I'm gonna like that. But if is correct count equal to yes, so like we don't need to put a statement here, right? We're just gonna do it shorthand. Then the value is 1, otherwise it's 0, right? And I really don't want to name it this. I'm going to put correct number, and then said actually correct number. I really don't like that. Correct responses. I have a thing for naming things properly, man. Like if you don't do that, that's like I have the half the problem solved just by naming it correctly. It makes everything so clear. Alright. So ignoring my whatever you call that. Right. So we should be good to go there. So if he wasn't following, it's correct. And we get in all the correct responses. Remember, this is yes or no as the case may be. So if it's yes, we say it's 1. And if it's otherwise, it's no, right? So only if it's 1, it's yes. Or only if it's yes, it's 1. Now in functions, because we get in the correct value here, we can actually just put that in. What's funny is when I was actually doing this, I had more complicated logic. Second time around, it seems to be way simpler. Alright, cool. So let's try that. So the first question is what, I don't know how to spell it, what kind of bending does Saka do? Man, I'm pronouncing this name wrong. So water bending, we can do water bending, fire bending, sword bending, and this is the correct answer. Oh, no, it's not. Anyway, so let's see what we get there. So we have sword bending as being the correct answer, even though it is most definitely not. I have no idea. Saka. I just can't pronounce the name for nothing now. I need to hear them say it. Alright, anyway. So sword bending is not the correct answer, but it is what we said was the correct answer, so we could see here. So the next thing we need to do is actually show our questions. So that's what we're going to do now. So how do we show our questions? By going into our functions and we say we want to get all the questions. Function get questions. And this should be pretty straightforward. Consulting the notebook. Let's call it get all questions now. Get all questions. And the results is going to be It's going to be an array. And what do we say? We say try. I feel like we give up on try these days. We give up on trying. We don't use try anymore. That's not good. Always use try. Or something to that effect. Anyway, we get the connection and then we say results is equal to connection.query. We just put in the SQL, right? So it should be basically select star from questions. So that's getting all our questions. So well, we need to return results, right? In practice, what you could do is like results is equal to empty, right? If it's an error, and then right here you would log the error. Log your error in a file or something. Or you can actually display to the user in some user-friendly fashion. Totally up to you. Totally up to you. Alright, so let's go. We are now going to display all the questions. So below our special logic and form, we have another thing called questions. So this is going to show us all our questions. We're going to use a for each to do it. Get our questions. Question. We need to end the for each. And within, so let's just list all the questions first. So question, I guess most likely I named it question. Let's see if that works. we should have a lot of questions. Actually, I truncated it, so we should only have a few. If you want an ID, we could actually do that. So if you want, we could do and put the number here, right? So we kind of know exactly what we're displaying. So you could do it like that. And it just needs a little space, so let's give it a little space. Right, so we know we have 5 questions in the database. 2 of the same, 1 of a wrong spelling of soccer. Yeah, I think I pronounced it good there. Alright, and you can add more. 1 more question, and it should actually show up, right? Great. So now what we're going to do is display the answers to these questions. So we can do that. Or we could try to make it a little fancy. Do you want to make it a little fancy? Fancy is not my style. But we're going to try something. So, to get something fancy, first you add a border radius of 3px. And then you add another border. And then you make it kind of gray. And then I think you say solid. Or you need to add some padding, 5px. And then some margin for the things below, 3px. And this is how you do things fancy. Bam! Look at that. It's kind of fancy, right? Maybe not. Maybe not. Anyway, so we're going to do the answers now. So you want to get all the answers. So you could create one just like we did that function. Get all answers. Except that this time we're not really getting all the answers. We're just getting the answers specific to the questions. And to do that, so you could just put answers here, right? But because we don't want to be where question ID, right? Because we want to be special, what we're actually going to do is annoying. So we're actually going to say this is the SQL, right? And then we have to go and prepare it. So we have to create the query and we have to say prepare it in the pot, and then put the pot on fire, query, execute the pot, and then once the pot is finished cooking, you can get your results. If this doesn't work, after that fantastic analogy, don't know what I'll do. Alright, so I have answers before, so I'm just going to put a row. Most likely it won't cause a conflict because it's happening below. But most likely it's not never. A row stands for answers row. And we can get the answer. Right? So let's see if that works. In our fancy. This is not a function, right? No, it's a function. All kind of errors today. I didn't put any ID, right? You notice it need an ID. My word. What is going on? I actually don't know what's causing that error. I'm gonna have to actually look into it. There's one of those stupid errors, like when you didn't finish something correctly. Like a bracket is probably out or somewhere. But that doesn't seem to be the case here. For each. And for each. Yes, I'm not sure what the error is, so I'm gonna pause and come. See the strippiness right here? How did that happen? Anyway, As you can see now, we have the questions and the answers. And the only thing we need now is to know which one of these answers are correct. You could also add padding at the bottom. But anyway, so we want to know which one of these questions are correct. I mean, which one of the answers are correct. So to do that, we add another line here. And we say, if a row correct is equal to 1, we could just echo some stuff, right? So we could echo and say this is correct. We probably could make it green. I want to make it green. I'm just full of errors today. Alright, so let's make it green. No. Alright, so we have correct here. We're just going to make it green. And then that's going to be it for the question section. Style, color, green. The dark green. Look at that. We're getting fancy. Great. Alright, so at the top, enter your questions. Yeah, that's fine. Enter your questions. We're gonna add a start the quiz now, and we're gonna add a link. Start now. 3 exclamation marks, href. We're gonna name this quiz.php. Keen, is that how you spell quiz? I'll Google it. Nice. So start the quiz now, right? We are about to start the quiz. Alright, and to do that, we need quiz.php. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to include our functions file, and then we're going to close it up. We're going to get start quizzing. So let's load up our reference, which you can't see. And I need my template. So what we're going to do now is the last avatar, the last airbender quiz. Start now. Alright, so you have a little H3. Start the quiz. And guess what you need? A form. 1 second. So let's begin with our form. And our form is post, method is post. And in our form we have, what do we have? So the first thing we need to do is get all the questions. Do we? We need to get one question. So let's do that. We need to get just one question. And we need to get that question based on something. So let's say we start from 0. So let's say we want this to be the cursor. And the cursor starts from 0. And we want to get the next question. So in our functions, we say function next question. And we pass in the cursor, or let's call it the pointer once it's inside here. And what we want to say. Next question, we're going to copy this. Yep. And we're going to say select star from questions where ID is greater than our pointer limit 1. Limit 1 of course means we are only getting 1. So whatever happens, we're only getting 1. Great. So now we can get the next question. So what do we need? We need 2 buttons, or 1 button. Let's put 1 button. Start this quiz and type submit. So let's just look and see what it looks like. We seem to have an error. Yeah, I'm not too sure how this happens. Right, so let's just look and see how it looks. Actually, we wanted to go to a new page. So target blank. Right, start now. Start this quiz. Right. So we're gonna start the quiz. Right now the pointer is at 0. And we wanna give this a name. Give it a name, start. Right? So here's what we're gonna do. You know what we're gonna do. You do know what we're gonna do. Server request method equal to post and yeah. Why am I doing this? Quiz. You know. Yeah, alright. So the big boys have spoken, and we are now doing what we originally did. So let me explain that. Well, the name is quiz, we give it a different value. So we're making sure we're getting what we submitted. And when we want to identify different things, we just check by the value. So now we're going to say the action, which is the value, is equal to quiz. So right now, the action we are on is start. So if the action is equal to start, the first thing we need to do is what? Cursor needs to be set to null then. And the first thing we need to do is cursor is equal to 1. Right? Else we do some other stuff here. So on start the cursor is 1. Or maybe the cursor should be 0 on start. Right. And then what we could do now is using our get next question. So just gonna make this whole thing a PHP, and we're gonna say next question is equal to get next question functions next question. We call it get next question. Am I recording it? Get next question, right? And we're gonna pass in the cursor, right? So we should have the next question is going to come in as an array. So let's just so let's just get a response of this, and we're going to say if count response greater than 0, then next question is equal to response 0, right? So we only want the first value in the response if it's greater than 0. Else response is equal to null. Let's do it like that. Else response is equal to null. So we could always check to see response depending if it's, you know, response will it take what we do next. Anyway, so for next question, so here's what we're going to do now. We're going to display the question. I forgot we in a block. So yeah, let's display the question. And the next question is, and this will be of course only if it's not null. Next question, and then we close that in. So let's just see if that works. Yeah, of course. So we're going to do this if response not equal to null. We do this. right? You must follow with me. Hello world, right? And then, so that's first start of the quiz. And what we want is another button called continue. Yep. So this action is called continue. Continue. You have to stay with me, right? Don't get confused. Alright, so if the action is equal to continue, what we're going to do, we're going to increment the cursor plus. That's all we need to do. And for this, we're going to only show start the quiz if cursor is equal to null. Right? And if, so that means the only thing we need to see next is continue. Yeah, bye. And we're only showing continue if response is not equal to null. Again, I guarantee you this is not perfect, but it works. Alright, so once we start the quiz, we say start quiz, and that means the cursor is null and response mean don't have any responses yet. Once we start the quiz, we see hello world. We should not be seeing start this quiz. Cursor should not be equal to null. If cursor is equal to null, start this quiz. Anyway, we shouldn't be seeing that, so when we get there. Anyway, continue this word question. Alright, so we should be incrementing as well. So a few things not happening. Right, so we're not passing in the cursor, so that's one of the things that isn't happening. So let's do that. So input, the name is going to be cursor. The value is going to be cursor. So we have to pass in the cursor, right? To do that, we have to get a pass cursor. So if it's equal to cursor, cursor should be equal to cursor. So if it exists, we want it. If it doesn't exist, we say it's equal to null 0 or 0. We might come to regret that, but let's see how it works. Alright, finally this is a hidden input. So the type of this is hidden, so it won't show up as a text. And now we're going to say start this quiz, hello world. This is a hello world question. Continue. All the time we see that type. What kind of bending Laseka does? One more question. That's the end of the quiz. So now you're seeing we going through the quiz, right? So we almost there. Alright, so we are continuing. So now that we have the cursor, we need to do a few things. So when this is null, when response is null, it generally means one thing, that the quiz is complete. So know that. So once response is null, the quiz is complete. So before we do this, you should only do this when cursor is not equal to null. So let's first add that condition. If cursor is not equal to null, because when cursor is null is when the quiz hasn't started yet. The quiz starts at 0. So that's the first thing. And because we kind of need response before, we're just going to put response as null here. Alright, so that's first thing to note. the quiz hasn't started, so now, but now we're not going nowhere. So let's see what's going on there. So the quiz has not started, and then we submit it. So cursor should be equal to 0. So I say cursor not equal to null. It's not on 0 the same thing? Cursor not empty. These little things could trap you up. Okay, let's figure this one. Alright. So what I did, right, is I put other equal sign. So that's kind of like a hard, how do you put it, equation, equivalent, evaluation. So if it's soft, PHP kind of makes suggestions for you. So the hard version is better. So it's looking for a definite null. Anyway, so start this quiz. Yes, continue, continue, continue. So the only thing is that start this quiz still remains when it shouldn't remain. So start this quiz cursor is equal to null. So we need to do the same thing, make it hard. Press start this quiz, and now it's gone. Continue, 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 continue. So we need to so when the quiz ends, so we're gonna have a section here. We're gonna say if response is equal to null, we're gonna add a button here that asks you to continue to start over. Start. You could stay start over. And then we want to put, hooray, your quiz is complete, view your results. And then we have a link here that says view your results. Results here, 3 exclamation points. For now it's just going to go to nothing. Again, this is href, right? I did this before. This seems way cleaner. Look at that. So that's wrong. If response is equal to null. So response starts off as null. So we should say and the cursor is greater than 0. So in that case, it'll only be when the cursor has increased more than 0, right? So we only see it at the end of the quiz because that means the cursor would have completed then. And then we could go and start over. And we could start over from the top again. So that's great. Or we could go and view results to view the results. Before when I did it, I can get it to the start. And the start has like the start of this quiz. So what I could do now is I could do something called start over. So in start over, else if action is equal to start over, I could kind of reset everything. So I could see cursor is equal to null. NUL and response is equal to null. So I only think I need one, but let's see if that works. Because I wasn't getting this before. Continue, 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 continue. Start over, right? So now we have started over from the start of the quiz. And we could click start now and you could actually enter the quiz now. And continue. And then view your results here. I'm going to put an actual button there before start over because you might just continue past it. You are complete. How would that submit it? Let's see. Where's that? Start this quiz now. actually, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna put an actual break here. So you kind of have to go lower to click the button, because you realize continue, right? But I want you to go lower, so you have to go lower to click start over. So in the meantime, you have to see your results, because you don't want them to click the same thing and it just pass over. So that's just some user-friendly feature you add in there, just to make it easier for whoever is using it. Alright, so the next thing we are going to do now is we're going to display the questions. So we want to get a question. Well, we want to get all the questions by an answer. Oh, all the answers by question. So I think we have a function for that. Get all answers. We do. So we could use that. So while we're doing the quiz, up here we want to get all the answers. So we say, I'm gonna echo UL. Hold on, I don't think we're echoing UL. I think what we're doing is we're going to create a form here. Yeah, so we're going to create a form, and alright, so here we're going to do for each get answers, get all answers by question ID. So it's going to be next question and ID as answer, right? And we are now going to do our input and label thing. So we're going to echo some stuff. So we're going to give myself some space for that. And we're just going to put some HTML here. So the input type is going to be radio. And the name is going to be response, RESPONE. Value is going to be I'm not sure why the value is this as yet. Value is going to be the answer ID. Refer that. Right, so we're doing some, right, so we need, yeah, great. So we have an input, and the next thing we want is a label. So we're going to look and see how this all shows. And we break that, we return the answer, return, what are you saying? We close the label. So something seems to be wrong here. Yeah, this is wrong, this is wrong. Great. So let's just see how this looks, so we know how we're doing. So not all of them have questions. Oh, this is great. So what we're missing is a break. We definitely need to add some actual questions. So continue. So let's do that now. At the end of it, we should have another break. We're going to add some proper questions now, right? So we're going to clear the database again and add some proper questions. Alright, so I'm just adding any questions, right? So 2 books, 1 book. The correct answer is 3 books, right? Are you sure? Alright, so how many books does the Avatar, the Last Airbender, have? And some things were cut short there. We're not starting again. What are the 4 original types of airbending? Let's make sure. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. So I have 4 responses, and the first one is correct. So water bending, air bending, and fire bending, and all the bending. All my spelling errors going in here. So just copy them across. Two questions is enough, right? So save question. What are the 4 original types of airbending? And this is the correct answer. So one more. Serve as a bridge between. What does the Avatar serve as a bridge between? I found this quite funny. spiritual world and the physical world. That says yes. Chinatown and the universe. Hey, I forgot this. Alright, so we have 3 questions, so we could work with that. So now we can actually see what our quiz will look like. How many books does Avatar The Last Airbender have? It's not spelled correctly. Don't get me. What are the 4 original types of airbending? And finally, the avatar serves as a bridge between, and you could pick the answer. And then your quiz is complete, and you could start over. So great. So the next thing we need to think about now is now that we can actually add our questions and display our add our questions and take the quiz. What we want to do now is actually save the responses. And that is literally the end once we do that. So once we save the responses, we are basically complete. So let's dive into the database of our responses. I believe I named it responses. Send to SQL to create. Alright, so let's look at it, right? So what do we have? Remove the auto increment, and you can see it right here. So no, you can't. No, you can't. Great. So this is our table. It takes the ID, the question, and the answer. ID is auto incremented, just a question ID and an answer. So that's it. So in order to do this, we need a form. We need a form. That's correct. So let's get a form. Actually, I think we have a form. We do have a form. So the only thing we save in is the response and question. So where do we save the question? Great. So let's begin. So as long as we have a question, we save a question. So this is a type hidden. And the name of this is question. The value is the ID of the question, which is next question ID. Fantastic. And now here's what we're going to do. We're going to say question. Should we name it question? I want to name it response question. Let's call it QUES. Post question. Whoa. Yes. Question. Question. Otherwise it's null. Also we get the response, right? RESP. Are we? Let's confirm that. So now remember, the radio button is name response and the ID is the answer ID. So yeah. We get in the response. Great. So now all we need to do is say if we get in this, we're gonna save this to our database. And that's it. That is it. So we need a function called save response. So let's see if we could load up that function or create that function, save response, and we're taking in a question and a response. A question and an answer to be specific. Right? And all we're going to do is save that. Take it up to the save section, function, save response. We want a question and an answer. So these are IDs, by the way. Yeah? So you know the drill. We get our connection and we have our SQL, and we say insert into response, which is the table, question and answer, and that's it. We just need to do our query. What are we doing? We're preparing the preparing the query, and then we're gonna cook it. We're gonna cook it with a query, with an execute. Man, yeah, there we go. Execute. We need to pass in the salt and the pepper. And now, actually, I think that's all we need to do. So let's see. Again, we have an error because I did it below there. Save response. So in here, we call save response. As you can see, this is why we have a global function, right? What want question and response. In truth, we want to check if and quest. Anyway, so let's see if we get this to work. Start quiz, 3 books, continue. Now we're looking at our database for responses. And we have so many responses we cannot tell what we did, so we're going to truncate the database and we're going to start again. We start this quiz, we see 3 books, and we continue. It looks like it's working, is it? It ain't working. Alright, so let's dig into this some more. Save response, question, response, post. The method is post. The name is correct. The response name is also correct. We're doing everything here, it seems. Let's check into the function, save response, question and answer. Is the database name responses? No, the database name is responses. These are the simple errors that really grind your teeth. All is some spelling error. Anyway, so our responses are being added as we take the database. Now, because there's just one user, we are going to do something special. It ain't special. You want to say clear responses, right? Because it's just you. Now, if it wasn't you, if you had multiple users or stuff like that, you could go into cookies and things, but you don't need to do that. So all we need to do is try to clear the database, but we won't be trying. We would be doing it with certainty. Exception E. Anyway, so we got the connection because we need the connection to connect to the database, and then we just run a query. And the query is going to be very simple. It's going to be truncate responses. And where do we do this? In your quiz, when we say start, the first thing we're going to do is clear all the responses. So every time we start the database, every time we start the quiz, our responses table are cleared. So we know, but it's supposed to work. Doesn't seem to be working. Well, that's good to know. Truncate response. Same spelling error. You would think I learned. Anyway, start this quiz. Let's look at the database. The database is clean. So let's say I went through it all. And I went to the finish. We would see all the responses there. Fantastic. And let's start over. We say start this quiz. The responses would have been cleared, and we get to start over now. Alright, so let's work on responses now. Well, not responses, but results. As we go into the end of the quiz. At the end of the quiz, what we need to see? We need to see our results. So we're going to call it results. Then copy our template. We're going to say, ooh, yeah, we need that. That's fine. We're going to say, hooray, hooray, you complete the last Airbender quiz avatar in the wrong order. And we will say H3 because H1 is too big. Congratulations. Let's see your results. Great. So it's going to be really simple. And let's see what we do. What do we do? So what we're going to do now is we're going to pull all the results from the database and display it so you could see exactly what your responses were to the quiz. So you're going to create a function called getResponses. Well, first in our results, let's include our functions file because we have been using that primarily. And now we're going to say function getResponses. Function getResponses. Here's what we're going to do, right? We're going to answer the quiz. I added some more questions. So you're just going to go through the quiz. So we want a list of responses and then we're going to work some stuff in the database. Alright, so here's what we're going to do. Stay with me. Select star from responses. And we're going to join questions on responses question is equal to questions ID. Then we're going to join answers on answers.id is equal to responses.answer. So first we're going to see if that works. If you get any errors, I want to type fast and make errors. Right, so now we're getting everything and now we only want what we want. So now we're going to say questions ID. We want to select questions ID. We want to select questions question. We're going to select answers answer. And we want to know if it's correct or not. Alright, so this is going to give us everything we need. So now we know the ID of the question. What was the name of the question? We want to know the answer. Like that is what you responded. So you probably can name that response. We're going to leave it as answer. And then we want to know if it's correct or not. Alright, so in the case that it's not correct. So we have some that not correct. So if it's not correct, what we want to do is actually get the correct answer. So check this out. We're going to do it here as well. We're going to say select star from answers where correct is equal to 1 and question ID is equal to whatever the ID is. So in this case, this is going to give us the correct select. That's correct. Why did I get an error? Right, so in this case, for every question that we put here, every question we will get every ID of the question that we put in here, we'll get the correct answer. So we are going to create two functions. So we have the get responses and we have function get correct answer. So in the case that we need to find out what the correct answer is, we can do that. So let us proceed by copying and pasting. So for get responses, I don't believe we need any IDs or anything like that. So let's just clarify. Yes, we just want all the questions, all the responses. So we're just going to copy this. And that's going to give us all the responses. So in results, we would have now for each get responses as response, and we close that, and for each. So now we can get all our responses, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to say p response. And what we want is the question. Well, we want to know what the question is, right? So the first thing we want to know what the question is. And then we want to know what we said. So what did we say? Now in the quiz, when I finished it, I just want to make sure we send us the results.php, and we're going to put a target. Like, great. So right now we can't do it, but let's do it. Oh shoot. Nope. So the correct, it's going to be results.php. Right? So let's make some additions to that to make it look good. So congratulations. This is great. Let's see your results. We want that in bold. Maybe italics. Right? Now let's see your results. How many? So we want all the questions to be bold. So we're going to do that. So all the questions are bold. And then we're going to see, this is your answer. Well, we know that. Alright. So we are halfway there. So check this out. We're going to put this in PHP. If response correct equal to 1, then we know that you answered correctly. And if you answered correctly, we want to identify that specifically. So we will do that. I'm gonna put you in a span. We're gonna put the style as green, color is green, color is dark green, and then we're gonna give you some congratulations. You answered correctly. Hooray! So let's reload the page. So for most of them I answered correctly, even though I wasn't paying attention. As you can see, the answers are correct. Some of them I don't have answers for. Not sure how that happened. Let's find out how that happened. Start over. Let's take this quiz. 3 books. Water bending. Physical will. 112 years. Soccer. Wrong answer because it was not wrong answer. Efficient trip. Momo. Let's see the results. Yeah, I'm not getting some answers. So, you're gonna have to look at that. Oh, I have an else, sorry. I am being ridiculous. Let's do the else. Dark red. That indicates we answered incorrectly. If we answered incorrectly, then we need to get the correct answer. So, to get the correct answer, what are we doing? We are using the function that we said get correct answer. So, in this case, we're going to use that function. We're going to say correct answer is equal to get correct answer. And what's the ID of this? That's the question ID. I think we can say 0 because we only want 1, right? Correct answer. We shouldn't do this though. Should not do this. If correct answer, then we can say echo, and we just want to output the correct answer. So we say br and we want to put the correct answer, 0 answer. And that's it. That is it, people. We are basically complete. Clearly not. Get correct answer, echo, response ID. So let's look into that. Oh, we're not actually doing it as yet. We halfway there. So we need this. So let's copy this. We're not returning anything. We jump the gun. So we need to take an ID, which we are doing. We need to change this to this, and then we need to change this to ID. Right? And that should actually give us everything we need. Alright? And maybe you want to put some more stuff into this. We want to see that this is the correct answer. Is the correct answer. Yeah. And let's put it as green now. We put it as green, as long as it's not confusing. Put this below. I'm gonna close this now. Alright, so let's run our quiz again. You know we have our questions. I know we're gonna answer the quiz. Can you answer along with me? How many books? 3 books. What are the 4 types? Swamp bending. We make that wrong. Physical world and spiritual world. He's 112 years old at the start of the show. Katara is her name. Oh, well, why? Because he burned Katara from his fire lord Uzziah. I think that's the last question. Upper the sky bison. And we can view our results now. Congratulations, we have finished the quiz. Hooray! So you answered correctly. Correct. So only one we got wrong, which the correct answer is water bending, air bending, fire bending, and air bending. So that was kind of long. We have successfully completed our quiz. Thanks for sticking around.